But now contacts opened up with Central Asia, Persia, even Rome, but especially with India. For what the Chinese wanted was not material riches, but spiritual enlightenment. The wisdom of the Buddha. The Chinese never developed, perhaps never needed, an elaborate theology of their own. Indeed, the Western idea of a personal God is utterly foreign to them. But Buddhism, with its atheistic and democratic message, its deep care for ritual, was to have the greatest appeal of all the foreign religions which took root here. Buddhism was the third great stream making up the current of Chinese civilization, along with Confucian wisdom and Taoist mysticism. And the later Chinese came to believe that these three philosophies contained the essential ideas of civilization, and without any one of them, life would be unbalanced. That however sophisticated and technologically advanced a society might become, its people could only be fulfilled through inner enlightenment and the contemplation of eternity. In the Tang dynasty, Chinese scholars went on great missionary journeys to India to bring back authentic texts and relics of the Buddha. And in this little temple, in a secluded valley outside Xi'an, are kept the ashes of the most famous of those missionaries, Xuanzang. Some of the texts he brought back from India in the 7th century are still here.
What is it made out of?
它是用什么做的？
这是印度的一种巴布洛树，巴布贝的一种树叶做的。
It's made of palm trees in India.
Palm leaf.
Palm
It's
leaves.
palm leaf. Yes. And the script. This script is not Sanskrit, is it? What is the language?
他说这是什么文
这是印度一种古巴的古巴。
？The Asian Pali.
This is Asian Pali. Ah, I see. Does he know how many books Xuanzang actually brought back to China from India?
他说：“您知道不知道玄奘法师总共从印度带回来多少本书啊？”
Xuanzang brought 650 books back to Xi'an for translation. Rucksack on his back, a lamp to light his way. It's rare in history that we can pinpoint the very moment when one great civilization goes out to learn from another. In the 8th century AD, all roads in Asia led to Xi'an, or Shanghai as it was then known. It was the greatest city in the world, rivaled only by Baghdad and Constantinople. Its vast square laid out like a chessboard. A huge ritual enclosure, Shang'an's central boulevard was 4 miles long and twice as wide as today's avenue, which leads to the city's bell tower. This was the first time that foreigners had entered China in any numbers, and as often in later days, they were confined to their own area at night, well away from the center of power.
Over in the western quarter of the city, though, in the foreigners' enclave, you could find an anarchic vitality and a sophistication and a cultural mix that impressed all visitors to Chang'an. Here there were Muslims, Christians and Jews from Syria and Iraq, Zoroastrians and Manichaeans from Iran and Central Asia. There were Persian conjurers, Turkish moneylenders and Hindu fakirs. In the cafes there was Central Asian music, Asian food as there still is today, and also entertainment from singing and dancing girls from Persia and even further afield. Some of them, it was said, with blonde hair and blue eyes. Small wonder then that, as the writer of the time said, you could misspend your youth in cities like this and end up with nothing but the reputation of a wanderer in the blue houses.
In Chinese eyes, the Tang dynasty was above all the most golden of the many golden ages of their poetry. An art whose roots go back to the shamanistic magic of the Bronze Age. For the Chinese, indeed, composing poetry is one of the essential ingredients of civilization.
But if we could choose a single career to symbolize this first international era of Chinese culture, then it would be perhaps the great poet Li Bai, or Li Po as we know him in the West. Li Po was the product of the Silk Road. He was born not in China but out in Central Asia and spoke one of the Turkish languages. He spent his early years as a wandering soldier of fortune before he found his opportunities here in the greatest city on earth. He was a magnetic personality, irascible, self-taught, flashing eyes, a fearsome voice, and a heaven-sent talent. He was a prodigious drinker, too. The story goes that he died falling drunk into a river trying to catch at the reflection of the moon. But Li Po wandered through the music halls and the cabarets and restaurants of Chang'an and the other cities of China, his ear tuned not only to classical poetry, but to folk songs and ballads and the latest pop music coming hot out of Central Asia on the caravan trails. He was always an outsider. He refused pointedly to sit the Confucian examinations, preferring to do it, as he would have put it, his way. Always an outsider, but still today among the Chinese people, along with his friend Du Fu, their best loved and their best known poet.
Beyond the vermilion gates and the smell of wine and flesh, wrote Du Fu, people are freezing and starving to death. In thousands of villages, they harvest only weeds, while the women do the plowing. The people of China can face any test, if only their leaders treat them humanely. The Tang dynasty ended in social upheaval and revolution, like many in Chinese history. But it was followed by one even greater. 400 miles from Xi'an, eastwards down the Yellow River, lies Kaifeng. In the 11th century AD, Kaifeng was the capital of what is regarded as the peak of Chinese civilization, the Sung dynasty, a golden age unsurpassed in world history.